Okay, if I could ask those who are leaving the public gallery to do so as quickly and as quietly as possible as we move on to the next item of business, which is a members' business debate on motion 20146 in the name of Daniel Johnson on securing a long-term home for Edinburgh South FC and recognising the important role of grassroots football. The debate will be concluded without any questions being put. I'd invite members wishing to participate to press the request to speak buttons. I'd reiterate my appeal to those leaving the public gallery to do so as quietly as well as quickly as possible. And I invite Daniel Johnson to open the debate around 7 minutes, please.
Two slots. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. My competence with the technologists in chamber is matched by my competence at football. But there is a reason why I do this, because I think many of us in these sorts of debates will say we came into politics, came to Parliament to make a difference. But I think we all know that it's the organisations in our communities that really can make that difference. And I am in awe of what Edinburgh South Community Football Club and Inch Park Community Sports Club do. They are community wealth building in action, and we have just passed legislation, but Inch Park Community Sports Club was formed from an asset transfer. Edinburgh South Community Football Club is one of the biggest footballing organisations, not just in Edinburgh but across the country. They have 75 teams that play across boys, girls, women and men's football, over 1,000 participants taking part on a weekly basis, over 200 volunteers. But then the Community Sports Club do so much more, running free counselling, after-school clubs. This is absolutely our organisations at the heart of the community of South Edinburgh and supporting communities across South Edinburgh. And what they need to do, like many community sports clubs, is grow and expand and develop their facilities. They need 4G pitches in order to continue competing at the level. And they have land on their doorstep. It's tantalising. If you go down to Inch Park, you can see through the railings and see what is termed by the council as the nursery in Inch Park. And there's just wide open land. There's a bit of concrete, and you'll see some skips and some other things there. It's an area that essentially is used as an area to store stuff by the council. It is a perfect size for a football pitch, and yet, despite pursuing this since 2018, the answer they have been getting is not quite yet. Let's have another look. If we are serious about community empowerment, if we're serious about community wealth building, we can't put these sorts of problems in front of communities. We have to get behind them. And the reality is that despite meetings, that we aren't making that progress. Now, I am pleased that when I pointed out to council officials that I was holding this debate, we are going to get another meeting. Now, I don't think it should take an MSP tabling a motion, bringing it to Parliament in order to prompt a meeting that was promised in January, just before Christmas. Because this matters. This matters. Oh, happy to give way to Ben McPherson.
Ben McPherson.
I thank Daniel Johnson for taking the intervention and welcome this debate as a former under-12s player for Inch Boys Club in particular, but also to recognise the contribution that Spartans Community Foundation have made in the north of the city, and to emphasise, is that not an example where, when the council and organisations can work together, what can be created? And if there's anything that we can do from the north and eastern side of the city to support the contribution that Mr Johnson is trying to make on behalf of South Edinburgh, then please can we help him in that regard.
Daniel Johnson.
Look, I'm very grateful to Ben McPherson for intervening, although I think he's exposed that he's probably more qualified to speak on this topic than I am. But I think the wider point he makes is absolutely right, is that we need collaboration and we need cooperation, but critically we actually need local authorities to come to the table and work proactively with organisations. They're the ones that have the wherewithal and the organisation to do with that. The volunteers will bring an awful lot of willing and enthusiasm, but we need that to be facilitated, and we need a lot more of that, because ultimately what we're talking about is public assets and public land. These are assets and land that belong to the people that are seeking to develop them and use them. And let's be clear, this is a long timeline. We have had plans commissioned in 2020 to look at how Inch Park nursery site could be developed. There had been a master plan actually designed in conjunction with City of Edinburgh Council that was submitted for levelling up funding in 2022, and yet we still, despite that effort, despite the detailed plans, despite actually the engagement, is that lack of ability to gain progress. Now, let me also widen this out. I recognise that not every member who either signed my motion or is here to speak wants to speak about Inch Park, but community sport matters more widely. And I note that Brian Whittle is speaking, because I think the point I suspect he's about to make about participation in sport, about wider health impact, is hugely important. We know sport is important for mental health, but let me say, as somebody that is not necessarily very good at playing team sports, I know what I learn from doing them. From playing football and rugby, at school age, you learn about teamwork, you learn about discipline, you learn about communication. It's not just about becoming good at sport. Many people won't, and I will attest to that. But what you do is learn actually how to work with other human beings, and you gain incredible health benefits. So what I'd say is this. Let's move forward with this project. Let's stop a situation where people in the Inch look through those railings and wonder, what if? What could we do with this land? What could we do if we were allowed to make better use of it and to develop it? Because after all, that land belongs to them. And we were talking the other day in the Community Wealth Building about actually a situation where communities are enabled and that we had a presumption of saying yes to them. It doesn't feel like that is the situation here. We have to get the Council around the table to get this plan moving ahead. So rather than somewhere where they can have either storage facilities or parking facilities, because literally that is the uses the Council are saying that they need to find, that we actually have that land being used for the people that live in the Inch. And actually we need this as a wider approach, so that land owned by the public gets to be used by the public for the benefit of the public. That is what community empowerment is about. That is what community wealth building is about, and that's what we need to see much more of. And I'll close there. Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer.
Thank you very much, Mr Johnson. We move to the open debate. I call first Jamie Hepburn, to be followed by Brian Whittle. Around 4 minutes, Mr Hepburn.
Thank you very much, Presiding Officer. And I will not start off talking about my own footballing prowess, because it occurs to me you have seen me play and you will be able to adjudicate on that, so we'll leave that there. But I'm very glad to speak in this debate. It reflects the importance of football in terms of its benefits to social well-being, health of our country, also as an economic driver. Its central importance as part of the life for many of us in Scotland. I think there's nothing wrong with us returning to it as a subject matter, particularly in the context of Daniel Johnson's constituency interest. I have to confess, I wasn't au fait with enough of the detail to feel confident in signing Daniel Johnson's motion, but I'm very sympathetic to the terms of it. It's been interesting to hear what he said in respect of Edinburgh South Football Club and Inch Park Community Sports Club, and that is exactly the type of approach that I think we need to see more of across the country. I did acquaint myself with some of the activities of Edinburgh South in advance of this debate, and I'm very impressed with their very strong and very clear commitment to supporting hundreds of players across all levels, abilities, right up to a first team playing, of course, in the East of Scotland League. And it reminded me very much of some of the clubs that we have in my constituencies, which I'll try and return to later on, particularly Cumbernauld Colts, who I noticed were formed in the same year as Edinburgh South. But the fact that they have the SFA quality mark as a Platinum Legacy Club really testifies to their achievement, because I know that's not an easy thing to achieve. And let me finish on Edinburgh South by saying I noticed, I had a cursory glance at the league table and see their first team are doing rather well in the East of Scotland First Division, and given that means they won't be contesting any of the 4 teams that play in the league system from my constituency based on the west side of the country. I think I'm safe in saying I wish them well for the rest of the season. But I do want to focus on that part of the motion around recognising the importance of the role of grassroots football as impacts my constituency. I mean, like all, we'll have a tremendous range of clubs operating at youth level, at amateur level, women's football as well. And I want to place on record my thanks to all of them. But I do want to focus on 2 in particular, the aforementioned Cumbernauld Colts, who, as I say, were formed in 1969, primarily as, and they still are primarily as a youth club, but also supporting, just as Edinburgh South do, hundreds of players across all abilities and ages, right up to a first team in the Lowland Football League. And I am concerned that sometimes they don't quite get the support they should from the local authority. They were actually the club that, through the Cashback for Communities Fund, were able to get an artificial surface installed at Broadwood. Thereafter, there were some tensions between them and the council in terms of utilising the stadium. I think that's improved a little, but given that they were the driving force in getting that installed, I think that should have been recognised a little more. And also the fact that they give so much back to the town, it should be recognised. If they weren't there, that would be a significant hole to fill. The other club I wanted to mention are Kilsyth Athletic, founded in 1999, again supporting hundreds of players from across the local area, age ranges again from youth right up to a first team competing in the West of Scotland League. They've based themselves at Kilsyth Sports Field. There are challenges there. It's not being maintained well enough by North Lanarkshire Council. It's being effectively used as a floodplain from the Garrel Burn. I know that these things need to be managed, but that then impacts on the ability to use that playing field. Simple things such as the car park there being in disrepair causes problems for the club being able to use it. The club actually are very interested to try and see a repair there and have been able to identify people who might be able to do that, but it seems to be caught up in the bureaucracy of the people who are able to do it not being an accredited provider by the council. We should be working around these things. We should be trying to make sure that things can happen for clubs such as Kilsyth Athletic, such as Cumbernauld Colts, and in return to Daniel Johnson's case, Edinburgh South. These are important institutions. They're important institutions in terms of their contribution to the sport of football, but also to their wider community contribution. They deserve our support, and we should remind ourselves this summer we'll see the pinnacle of football, the World Cup, which thankfully, of course, Scotland will be playing in. But let's remind ourselves that football starts in the community, and we must do everything we can to support those community football clubs.
Thank you, Mr Hepburn. And now Brian Whittle to be followed by Davy Russell. Again, around 4 minutes, Mr Whittle.
Thank you very much, Deputy Presiding Officer. I'm going to thank Dan Johnson for bringing this debate to the Chamber and giving my speech as well. I was actually thinking, I haven't got really anything written down. I thought, I wondered where I'll go with this. Will I go in a different direction? And I usually go, no. I'm going to go down exactly the same route. And what strikes me is, Daniel Johnson's talking about the impact that sport, football or any kind of sport has at a young age, and how that's a sort of lifelong learning. My concern's always been how the youth of today have that same abilities we had. Now, I recognise that I go back a wee bit further than a lot of people in this chamber, but I played football at school. We had inter-school, primary school football tournaments. That's and of course my speed about the park, Deputy Presiding Officer, ensured that I was the goalkeeper. But talk me through that one. We had that opportunity to play, that opportunity to get on the bus on a Thursday afternoon and go and play. I was Trin Primary. We played whether it was Simonton and Dundonald and all the different primary schools. We had that opportunity to play. And at secondary school, it was rugby for me. I played rugby, and I think this is where my concern lies, because I often talk about the reduced ability or opportunities for our children these days to participate in sport. I've used this before. When I was at Mark College, there was, of course, I'll give way to Dundee.
Daniel Johnson.
Grateful to the member for giving way. And Chris, I think there's an important distinction with what he's just said there between primary school and secondary school. Is that actually some of the opportunities that exist at secondary school just don't. And actually we see fewer and fewer dedicated PE teachers, for example, at primary school, and actually the opportunities to both do PE, but actually critically take part in competitive sport, I think are very different to what they were 30, 40. I'm not going to say how many years ago the member might have been at school, but I wonder if you might agree with that point.
Brian Whittle.
Let's go 50. Daniel Johnson is absolutely correct. I was going to say this, when I was at Mark College playing rugby, there was 36 schools in Ayrshire played rugby. The last time I looked, there was 6. So that access, the grassroots access to play rugby is hard. I've got to say, my eldest grandson now plays for Mark College and is on a pathway. But he got on the SRU pathway, and he got on that pathway by playing at Mar FP's Minis, and was followed by the coach that coaches him was the captain of Kilmarnock Rugby Club that I played with once I'd retired from track and field. And it's that coach who's taken the school team right the way through to some fantastic results. And I think that's missing. That whole system is now missing. So I'm not going to say in my day. I think they're really dangerous words to say, but it's not, because it's not my day. But we have to find a different way, because I think, Daniel Johnson very rightly talked about, the impact of participating, that confidence and resilience, that aspiration, that teamwork, that discipline that I think that sport brings to a rounded person. But there is, whatever else we say, there is a huge reduction in opportunity to participate, and there's a cost now associated with participation that many can't meet. So if we really want to tackle things like poor physical and mental health, if we really want to tackle Scotland's poor health record, this is where we start. Community sport and community activity is the foundation of how we tackle that in the long term. And I'll be really interested in what the Minister says. I know the government always say we're putting more money into this and there's more money in. It's not true. On the ground, when you look at it, because I'm still involved, I'm still a performance coach, and when you look on the ground, when you see what's happening, sport these days is becoming the bastion of middle class and private education. And that has to change. So I'm really thankful Daniel Johnson's given me the opportunity to come out and say the same thing that I always say, but I think it's hugely important. Deputy Presiding Officer.
Thank you, Mr Whittle. I can advise you that while few football careers start in goals, there are very many of them, as I know from personal experience, that end in goals. I now call the final speaker in the open debate, Davy Russell, around 4 minutes. Mr Russell.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. And I can also thank my colleague Daniel Johnson for bringing this motion to Parliament. I love football, and believe it or not, I think I said this before, I'm still playing 2, sometimes 3 games a week. I'm getting a wee bit slower, but I'm getting there. South Edinburgh FC, while I don't know too much about it other than what I found out for Daniel, but basically it's a football club that, that have similar clubs in my area, that are trying to emulate and have the same problems to Edinburgh South FC. And I think the more important word about all the football thing is its inclusion. For decades, Scottish football has been a nucleus of inclusion in our communities, our cities and our schools, crossing cultural and language barriers and allowing people from vastly different backgrounds to play, men, women, pensioners, they even have, as I say, walking football now, children, you name it. They all play footy, and celebrating and commiserating together on occasions, and having some heated debates afterwards about whether it was a penalty or whether it wasn't a penalty. However, that aside, it's also tremendously important to our culture. We might think nowadays it's whisky, haggis and Hogwarts that we're known for, but in actual fact I can assure you it doesn't matter where you go on this planet, that everybody knows Celtic and Rangers, who are known the world over. And unfortunately, my local team, the Accies, hasn't quite made it to that higher echelon or been to the Bernabeu or the Parc des Princes. But nevertheless, they're loved just the same. Grassroots football clubs, like one in my own constituency, Edelwood FC, I've got Fairhill Amateurs, Larkhor Thistles, Mill United Boys Club. You know, when there are tons of them, the amount of famous footballers that come out of my constituency, you'd Phil O'Donnell, Jim Bett, Bobby Shearer, Ali Maxwell, you know, a lot of good footballers, and they all started at the grassroots. The wee local teams, you know, boys football going up to amateur, then progressing further. It's a step-by-step football development. Without clubs like these, the grassroots football, Scotland probably wouldn't be playing in the World Cup this summer, because there wouldn't be a road for them. Local football clubs also help to foster healthy lifestyles, which is touched on earlier, both physical through exercise, but also mentally, with the opportunity to take off the stress of the day-to-day life. The screens dominating part of the people's day, opportunity to be present in a team game is more important than ever. Local football teams are also an opportunity for another role model in a child's life, the coach or the pal's dad, because that's 9 times out of 10 what it used to be, volunteering, spending their own time to manage that team. And one who, as I say, is not a parent or a guardian. I know that when my boy played, it'd be a Saturday morning, I maybe be hungover and I'm standing there getting soaking wet with all the other dads and some mums as well, watching them playing football. And at the end of it, you know, they're shaking hands, and you know, and a lot of friendships still carry on to this day. The phrase "it takes a village to raise a child" comes to mind. And the information aids, facilities, opportunities like those offered by Edinburgh South FC are the modern equivalent. I would also like the opportunity to bring attention, as I say, Edelwood Football Club is probably slightly behind in some respects because it isn't as big, although it's a big catchment area, but it's just recently completed a community transfer, so they're going to have a grass park, and they're trying to get funding for AstroTurf Park, and it will be a main community hub. And it's just fortunate that they're building 2,000 brand new houses near it, so that will help the footfall. But at the same time, as the Community Development Fund will also be contributing to their upgrading of their facilities. So far, they've raised money for solar panels, heat pumps. You know, when I played with them, it was actually cold water tanks, you know, and you're stunning. And when we just used to wash our boots in it, we didn't actually get in the shower. But raising money, upgrading the facilities, and leave them just getting on with it. And just like Edinburgh South FC, they are true community exemplars. And that's why I support this motion for a team across the country, as I say, and I hadn't heard much about it, but wholeheartedly support and congratulate Edinburgh South FC. They're well deserved for their efforts in their community.
Thank you, Mr Russell. And I now call Marie Todd to respond to the debate. Minister, around 7 minutes, please.
Thank you, Presiding Officer, and thank you to everyone who's contributed to this very interesting debate on the vital role, actually, of grassroots football clubs like Edinburgh South and the role that they play in supporting and strengthening Scotland's communities. We covered many of these same themes in George Adams' recent debate about the hugely positive impact that St Mirren FC has in its local community. What is evident, though, is that grassroots clubs are just as important as professional clubs. There are over 2,500 clubs spread across the country, all providing opportunities for young people to engage in physical activity and to be part of something, supporting their mental and social health. These community clubs do far more than simply develop players. They develop people. They give children and adults alike a place to belong, a place to grow in confidence and to build friendships that last far beyond the pitch, as others have said. They teach teamwork, discipline, resilience, respect, qualities that matter just as much off the pitch as on it. And for many young people, a coach can be one of the most influential adults in their lives, helping them to build character, confidence and self-belief. Now, these clubs are often run by volunteers who give their time, energy and passion because they believe in what football can do. The coaches, the committee members, the kit washers, the drivers, the parents standing in the rain, their dedication keeps Scottish football moving forward. They're the unsung heroes who turn up long before sessions begin and leave long after they end, doing it not for recognition but for the belief that football can change lives. And without them, our game would simply not exist. I'll give way.
Brian Whittle.
Thank you. I appreciate you giving me, Minister. Would she also agree with me that more than just enabling others to participate, volunteers are looking after their own health and their own mental well-being, and they are participating in sport just as much?
Minister.
Absolutely. So volunteering is undoubtedly good for the person who volunteers. We think it's an altruistic act, but it's actually pretty good for you too. And I would encourage, I'm very proud of the level of young people we have volunteering in sport in Scotland. I'd be delighted to encourage more to get involved. When I was preparing for this debate, I reflected on a film premiere that I went to in my own constituency recently. The Seaboard Villages, along with the Scottish Football Museum, created a film to celebrate 100 years of grassroots football in that area. And if you've got a wee 45 minutes to spare on YouTube, I would watch it. It is an absolute illustration of the power of football, the inclusion that Davy Russell talks about, that community cohesion, social connection and the health and well-being impacts. And yes, we had some sporting excellence too, so grassroots clubs are essential for the future of Scottish football. For every professional player, every Scotland international, every moment of national pride has their roots in a local club, a dedicated coach and a community that believed in them. For clubs across the country, key challenges remain largely the same. So that's the ongoing challenge of recruiting and retaining volunteers to support increased participation, the affordability for families of sports participation, combined with the rising cost of living, and the accessibility of suitable facilities for clubs, compounded by a continuing increase in demand. The Scottish Government understands the important role that sporting facilities play in improving people's lives, whether it's taking part in sport and physical activity for the first time, developing, progressing or achieving success, and the physical, mental and social health benefits that that brings. I agree with Daniel Johnson that good access to high quality and affordable facilities is absolutely essential to supporting participation, whether that be football or other sports. Now, Edinburgh South Football Club's an SFA Platinum Quality Mark accredited community club, which has been operating for over half a century. They run 75 teams, including children's football, youth, boys, girls, senior men's, women's teams and amateurs. They represent more than 1,000 players, with 200 volunteer coaches and officials spread across that 75 teams, which they say makes them the second biggest community club in Scotland and the biggest in the east of Scotland. Edinburgh South's ambitions to improve their facilities, to provide year-round participation and improved provision of changing rooms are absolutely to be commended. I would urge partners to work together to achieve the best possible solution. Now, I'm not cited. Certainly, I'll give way.
Daniel Johnson.
So I fear that I may be interrupting the Minister when she's about to address the point, but I think it was interesting. Jamie Hepburn and I are always slightly surprised when we alight on the same analysis, but I think the points he was making about essentially council bureaucracy sometimes getting in the way. And the points I was making, and I understand, but does the Scottish Government have a view about actually how it might be able to work with local authorities to actually make community empowerment a reality, especially with the focus on community football, but not just that focus?
Minister,
absolutely. So I was about to say I'm not cited on these proposals or the specific issues. I understand, I think, from what has been said today, that Edinburgh Council, whilst not being obstructive, are not providing much active support to the club as it seeks to develop its plans. And I do understand that the consequences of that could be profound. There's another round of SFA funding, DCMS grassroots funding becoming available, and I understand that they want to catch that. So I would be urging the partners, the council, the leisure facilities, any interested businesses, because for business it's a good investment in your local community, to get round the table and to work collaboratively to solve these challenges. Now, we recognise that there are significant challenges faced by operators of facilities, rising operational costs, energy, building material costs. That places a real strain on resources. I'm not sure if concern around that is what is preventing Edinburgh Council from getting involved. The cost of protecting and maintaining the existing infrastructure and developing new facilities has increased, and it continues to do so at an unprecedented rate. Now, Sport Scotland's undertaken a review of the condition and long-term investment needs of the sporting facilities estate. That's going to provide us with a better understanding of the current condition of the wider estate all across Scotland, and it will enable us to collectively work together. No one party has the solutions, and I guarantee you this government is keen to work together with partners to address the problems that will be identified. We want to ensure a more affordable, inclusive and sustainable sport facilities estate that provides more and better opportunities and removes those barriers for people to take part. Now, we have a huge investment from Scottish Government and from the National Lottery targeted by Sport Scotland, which is going into facilities. Fundamentally, we want to support the unique reach of football and football clubs in Scottish society to positively impact the physical and mental health and the well-being of our communities. That's why we announced extra funding for football in the run-up to the World Cup, to support these outcomes as part of a Summer of Sport package. We're working with partners on proposals for this. In drawing to a conclusion, let me again reiterate, we must not underestimate the hugely important value of grassroots clubs in their local community. I wish Edinburgh South all the best for their plans, and I'm more than happy to hear of future developments. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. That concludes the debate, and I suspend this meeting of Parliament until 2:30.